What is up, everybody, and welcome to the REIL Talks Podcast. My name is Mike Singletary.
And I am Frank Chan, and we are going to be your hosts. And what we're going to do is break down what it takes to live life on your terms through entrepreneurship, specifically real estate investing.
So we're going to hit it hard, the good, the bad, and the real, because that climb, as any entrepreneur knows, is never smooth. So let's get real.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the REIL Talks Podcast. And boy, do we have a treat for you today. If you guys are looking to have some fun and being entertained for the next 30 to 60 minutes, I have no idea how long this is going to go, but I know we're going to be talking about some fun, exciting things, but we're also going to get real and get deep and hopefully provide you guys with some actionable tips by the end of this, where you go out there and make your life even better so you can get what you deserve. So with that, Mike, anything to add to that?
What is up? No, man, that was a great one. Actually, you haven't even really gave him a real intro yet, because we're talking about the Godfather, right?
The Godfather, not the one with that puts the horse's head in the bed. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we got the Godfather of Virtual Wholesaling. And let's just go ahead and dive on in. We got Mr. Cris Chico. He's a renowned real estate investor and educator, and he is recognized as the pioneer of virtual wholesaling. You know, some people say they were or claim they are. No, Cris is the real deal. You know, he's revolutionized the industry by using just a cell phone and a laptop to locate and flip properties nationwide. And Cris has created game-changing strategies, including innovative marketing tools like ugly postcards. You might have received some, third notice postcards, and 24-hour recorded messages. Is that right, Cris? Mm-hmm. He has recently focused on leveraging digital bandit signs, and that was actually really cool. That was one of the first people to ever do that. We'll briefly talk about that today as well, to find motivated sellers online. I actually don't think anybody else is doing this, so you guys are in for a treat. Now, when not closing deals or teaching, Cris resides in South Florida with his wife and 2 daughters, cherishing his role as a dedicated family man, and his remarkable journey continues to inspire and shape the next generation of real estate investors. Now, if you are lucky enough to have subscribed to Cris Chico and has followed his journey, he is one of the more entertaining personalities out there, and we got to give credit where credit's due. What's up, Mr. Cris? Welcome to the podcast. Let's dive into your life, man.
That is a hell of an intro. A lot of pressure. As you were initially talking, I was like, my God, you're going to have a really interesting guy on this podcast. And then I realized it was you. And now I have all this pressure to at least provide with something of significance here with you here today.
I think you're going to be okay, man.
This is the best I got. That was the best I got. So it's only up from here. It's only up
okay.
From here. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Huh?
I can't believe all the things that you literally invented. I mean, I remember you telling me about, like, you invented the ugly postcard. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That was you. You know?
Yes, there was a lot of things. You know, I remember when I first got started, you know, nowadays it's very commonplace to go out and get a mailing list, you know, when it comes to real estate investing, or even go to mail house. But those things were very difficult. Even a phone system back then was very difficult when I first started. So there was a lot of things that came just from necessity.
So I want to give you the opportunity here to take this platform, and I want you to speak freely on all the haters out there who said I was the godfather of creating virtual wholesaling. What do you have to say to them right now?
Well, first of all, here's the key important things is that you never call yourself the godfather. Other people call you the godfather.
That's right.
Okay. So I've never called myself the godfather. People refer me to that. And I think that is what is the most important thing, because if you have to call yourself the best or the godfather, you're not the best or the godfather, because somebody else has to refer you to that.
You didn't earn
that's the key thing.
That's right. It's like prison names, you know?
Right. Exactly.
You just can't call yourself the baddest guy in the yard. You gotta.
Right. You have to be the baddest guy. And people are like, that's the baddest guy in the yard. Yes.
Well said. Well said.
Yes. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I'll one of the things, I am on vast amounts of caffeine, on drugs, vitamins, and a little bit of Celsius. So sometimes you have to pump the brakes with me, because I just go on and it's just like there's no stopping. So you have to. Okay.
Well, I'm actually going to pour some fuel on that, if that's okay.
Yes.
I don't like the. Yeah. I'm going to fan your flame, if that's okay.
But what do you guys want to talk about? Want to talk about
Well,
real estate?
you
Or
know
want
what
to
I
talk
want to
about?
talk about? Because I think it's fascinating how somebody could just invent. What's the origination story of that? How'd you come up with virtual wholesaling?
Well, what happened is that, I mean, it was just I was doing deals down here in the South Florida area, and I mean, just to take a step back, right? So I initially got started as an REO agent. I was an REO agent selling properties to the banks. Then I had an investor of mine that was buying most of my deals, and then he ended up saying to me, "Hey, why don't you come work for me, and I'll teach you the ropes." So then I went to work for him for 1 year, and I helped him buy a bunch of properties. And back then, we were buying properties from the banks. And what happened is that as the market, as the values skyrocketed, then the banks were getting less and less foreclosures, right? Because the only way the bank gets a foreclosure is because the owner doesn't have any way to get rid of the property. They're underwater. But if the values rise, that means the owner has equity, which means that the owner can just sell it on the open market. So the bank never takes possession of it, right? So then we were getting deals from the banks, but I noticed that we're getting less and less deals, less and less foreclosures coming down the pipe. So I had this crazy idea of, I wonder if we can get properties from like private owners. So I then started to, I'll tell you, so I was working for this company, and back then there was no, I'll tell you a couple funny stories that I haven't told. I'm trying to say a couple funny stories that I haven't told. And one of them, I'm not sure if the statute of limitations still exists. So if we look this up, I was an agent, and I was, as an agent in the REO world, you got everybody coming after you, right? They all want your properties. And so I had an assistant at the time, and there was a guy that was just constantly coming to me, and he was like, they were always trying to get into my world. And my assistant said, "Hey, this guy seems like a nice guy. Why don't you give him a chance?" So then a couple months passed by, and we threw him a bone. We threw him a property for him to buy. And he ended up fulfilling on it. He bought it. And then one day he says to me, "Hey, I want to take you to lunch." So I'm like, "Okay, yeah, no problem. We'll take me to lunch." So we get together for lunch. And this is after doing our first deal. And then I don't know if I told you this story, Michael, but we sit down for lunch. And then as we sit down, he sits across the table from me, and he slides me an envelope. And then he goes in his pocket, slides me an envelope. And then what was surprising to me was not how he slid me an envelope. What was surprising to me is how smoothly I extended my hand and took the envelope and put it in my pocket. All right, that was what. And so we did that. We did that. We sat for lunch. All this while, I was thinking to myself, "Hey, I like this guy. He gave me an envelope. I wonder what's in the envelope." So I went to my car. We said goodbyes, and we went to the car. I waved him off, waited till he left, and then I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to open up this envelope, see what's inside." And inside this envelope was cash. So, he had, paid me cash for doing a deal. And I'm like, "Oh, I got both sides of the commission, and then I get cash." So I don't know if you have to look up the statute of limitations on this, if the statute of limitations still exists. But so anyway, so it's funny because every time we did a deal, he kept on paying me extra money. Eventually, I thought, "Oh, I had a good racket," but eventually I realized that I was being underbribed because the people were getting paid like $5,000 a deal, and I was getting paid $1,000 a deal. So I went to work for him, and then eventually got to the point where I went to work for him for a year, and then I said, "Hey, I'm going to go out on my own." I went on my own. And so while I was working at the company, they had this back then. I don't know if you guys remember RealQuest, but there was another software called Win2 Data, which was not web-based. That was before the internet. It was like this platform, this thing that you logged in. So I had this crazy idea. I'm like, "Okay, I got to do these. I'm going to start doing mailings," and nobody else is doing it. But I'm like, I got to get data. And they had this program with all this data, but I don't want them. I have to start downloading this data, but I don't want to alert them at the fact that, I'm downloading this. So every couple of weeks, I would download data, like just download, email me. I would delete the emails that I sent to myself. I was very meticulous about it. And then eventually one day the owner comes in, and he's pissed because he just got like a $20,000 data bill. And he's like, and I'm sitting at my desk, and I'm like, "Oh shit." And anyway, so that's how I got all my records initially in order to do the mailings when I first got out, right? In order to do direct mail. So I started to do direct mail, and I couldn't get anything to work. And eventually I got Dan Kennedy's book, on how to write the ultimate sales letter. And with that book, I sat down and I wrote my first set of postcards. But then nobody was mailing. So as the mailings started to come in, as the calls started to come in, we had a problem. Is that there was no way we could handle the volume. I mean, we would mail out 1,000 postcards. We had like 120 different, calls. So even if you were on the phone, you couldn't handle the calls because they were coming in so quick. So I had to figure out a way to circumvent that. So there were no 24 recorded messages, but there was another guy that I knew from another industry that was using 24 recorded messages. I don't know if it was Joe Polish. It could have been maybe Joe Polish in the carpet cleaning industry. So I said, oh, maybe that might work for me. So I found the company was in Canada, and I used that number, and that's how the 24 recorded messages came in. And so then the reason I mentioned that story is because a lot of the strategies come about from two things. Number one is you just necessity, right? Necessity. But then how do you get those ideas? And I always remember a chat that the guy from Priceline, I think he talked about the concept of idea sponging, which is the concept that, if you're gathering your knowledge from a variety of different disciplines, then you can then take ideas from one place, put them in another. And in essence, like even when I started wholesaling virtually, because what happened is I was doing deals in my local market. I had two or three guys that were doing deals for me. So I was kind of like the guy in the back end, just dealing with all the marketing and everything else going on. And then I just had time on my hands. And so I started to learn about internet marketing. And so then I saw some guys that were doing deals in another market. So I thought, well, maybe I wonder if I could do deals in another market. And it was just a kind of an experiment. And then, back then nobody was using, landing pages. So I was one of the first guys that I would send out buyer postcards that would have the website on them. They don't work that well anymore because now it's commonplace, but it would just have the URL for the website. And I thought about, because we were mailing absentee owners, and I thought to myself, well, if we're mailing the recent absentee owners to get the sellers, but I said, well, why don't we mail the recent absentee owners? Wouldn't those be the buyers? That was my idea. So then I took the postcard, put a URL on it, and it was a squeeze page that I got from Dean Jackson. Remember Dean Jackson and Eben Pagan? And so that's when they first came out. So I said, let me use that in our business. And so now we were easily just sending out postcards to all these markets and then gathering a list of buyers rather quickly. But it came from like me looking at a variety of different things and kind of putting them together to then bring them into what I was doing. And I think that's the thing that I've always kind of been good at, is just like, there's a lot of stuff in my head about a variety of different things, and just being able to pull all that information together and to use it in one and be able to use it. I think that's where that comes from. That's a long fucking winded answer to your question. Hopefully you got somewhere.
Man.
I love that, because it's kind of your springboard to your kind of evolution of the digital bandit side, right? It's your what was the term you used? It was idea sponging. Right. So my question for you is, is there anything that you did before, and just kind of give people who are listening today, like how long have you, when was that when you first started, and where are you today? How many years has that been?
Well, when I first started, I was an REO agent. I mean, I got my real estate license in 1990 something. I forgot what it was, but I was a REO agent in year 2000. Then I probably started wholesaling on my own around 2005-ish. Right. And then and it was 2007 when I first started teaching first. And then 2007 was when I registered all the domains, virtual wholesaling and all the different variances. I still own them today. And it was 2008 when I first started really selling the information as, virtual wholesaling. Because what happened is that, back then, a lot of stuff wasn't available. So like, for example, the way we were running the business back then was that I had a guy. Everything was from home. And so, this was before acquisition managers were commonplace now, but I had found 3 friends, because as soon as I started to do real estate deals, I realized that I didn't really like the business, because some people say, well, I love real estate. It's in my blood. I don't give a rat's ass. I just wanted the money. That's really what I wanted. Yeah. And so then, so what happened is that as soon as, I made a significant amount of money, I realized I don't like to talk to these sellers. This is just horrible. And so then I ended up getting like 3 friends of mine and said, hey, look, here's what I got going on. I could do the marketing. You guys handle all these sellers, and I deal with the whole back end. So that's how it kind of a transition to. So that's when I had the spare time to do that. But then I had like a guy come over. Like it was interesting. So whenever we did mail outs, we didn't have a CRM. All we had was a notebook. So whenever the mailing hit, we would mail on a Thursday, Friday, and then the mailings would hit like on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and had a guy come over the house, and he would sit like for 2 days and handwrite phone numbers and messages on a notebook. And then I had another guy that would then pick up the notebook. That was our CRM. That was like a very sophisticated system of CRM. So what happened is that then I eventually taught this guy how to do, like, back then we were mailing the postcards using click-to-mail, and it was just kind of, it was very clunky. So I had put all these videos together. And so I created my first course just by taking all the video to trainings that I had from my guy and uploading them. A funny story is, back then I had gone to a couple of Roop seminars, and I went to Roop and I said, hey, and I spoke at Roop seminar, and I told them I could speak about virtual wholesaling, and they were like, him and Dan Duran were like, oh no, that sounds like crazy. That's not. Doesn't work. Don't talk about that, because I think that's unproven. So I'm like, whatever. So then I went to him. I told him, I think I told him this already. And I said, hey, Richard, I'm thinking about creating a course. I said, what do you think about, but I don't want to like do books and tapes, because what if I create all these books and tapes and now nobody buys it? So I got all these books and tapes. So I said, I have an idea. Why don't I take all my information, I upload it to a membership site? And nobody was doing that in real estate back then. Really? I think I was the first one to do a membership site. Wow. So it was difficult because you had to piece together one shopping cart, a member. Ooh. At the time I learned how to do, I learned how to code HTML, and I knew a little bit of PHP. So I said to Roop, I said, I want to just create a membership area and give people access. He's like, that will never work. I said, why wouldn't it work? He said, because people want like to get the books and tapes. And I said, why? But I don't want to do books and tapes. So I just ignored him. I said, fuck it, I'm just going to create the membership site. So my first course was Absentee on the Profits. And you want to know who my first customer was? Alex Youngblood. He's the one that owns Wholesaling Houses full time. Yeah. That's how him and I became friends. I was running PPC ads for my course, and he bought it. And I was like flabbergasted. I'm like, oh shit, somebody bought my course. And I was so flabbergasted that I called him. I'm like, hey, I just want to know if you're a real person. And that's how Alex Youngblood and I got together, because he was the one that first bought my course.
I feel like you're like Kevin Bacon. It's always like a 1 degree of separation, because you've been in here for so long that someone always knows Cris Chico. Because it's right. Like when you said PHP, piecing one shopping cart, that's where I got my start. It was like over 14 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap, when there's a will, there's a way. And if there's a lesson to be learned here, guys, it's like Cris started off at a bootstrap. That is the most bootstrap way you can go. This is before what you're seeing today with all the CRMs and all the tools you have access to these days. So when, I don't want to call this generation of investors are telling you, like, you guys don't know how good you have it, when you're sitting here complaining like, oh, I still have to set things up, and imagine being able to get a notepad, write it down, and hand it off. Like that's the most 1.0. If there's a 0.5 version of what we have today, that's where it began. So,
I mean, Cris, you're an innovator. And I think you've told me this before, like you have an engineer's mind, right? So you love tinkering and solving that problem.
Yeah, it's good, but it's also, it's like every person's strength is also their vice, right? It's like as if I said, hey, I love being up and I love having great energy, but then if I snort cocaine on the weekends, and it's kind of like, a bad combination. Yeah.
So
okay, so stay away from cocaine on the weekends, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm from Miami, so you automatically expect me to have a
coffee and
in my
some
car.
cocaine.
Yeah. Question is, which one do you do first? I do coffee in the mornings and cocaine in the afternoon as a pickup.
Just do a swirl. Just do a swirl, and you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things you always have to like sift through is all the shiny object. Everybody's like, oh, virtual wholesaling, you make money from home. You don't even have to leave, your house. You can do it in your underwear. Like I really like to focus on like the real side of the business. For those who have been kind of toted virtual wholesaling, you can do this, 2 hours a day. What's the other side of it? What's the dirty truth about virtual wholesaling that people really, really need to know in order to be successful? Not just you can make all this money, it doesn't take you very long, everything is automated. Like what can you say to those people out there who are hearing all of these shiny objects out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the truth about our business, the real estate wholesaling business, there's a lot of things, right? I mean, I think it's a great business for somebody to just, like, if you have a full-time job, you want to get out of that job, you want to be able to make a significant amount of money, not just selling a bunch of trinkets on eBay and then making a little bit of money. So that's great. Negatives are that it's sales. So if you don't like spending time on the phone and doing that, then that's going to be a problem. And that's one of the problems that I had, is that I'm not a really great salesperson. I'm the kind of guy that I'll organize my CRM all day long and organize it so all the leads are nice and proper, and then wait till like 4:55 in the afternoon to call, hoping that nobody picks up so I can reorganize it for tomorrow. So it's my personality. So to me, that was a stumbling block, and so that's why I got other people involved. But there's a sales aspect of it. It's a sales position. It's a numbers game, meaning that most people are not really up to the they don't really understand that you got to talk to a lot of frogs in order to find a deal. And then, once you do get your first couple deals, then the other part of it is, the unsexy part is that in order to scale that business, it's a business that requires humans, and humans are problematic, as you and I both know, as we all know here. So like right now we have a small real estate team, and I'm not involved in day to day, but and I'm not involved day to day. Like I have 4 people there, one main person that runs it. But I'm not there because I just don't like that part of the business. Like I'm good at teaching. I'm good at, I've always been good at the marketing. So I would say that I'm not a really great real estate investor. I would say probably I'm on a scale from 1 to 10. I would probably say I'm maybe about a 3 in terms of a real estate investor. Oh, wow. I've never done a full-fledged rehab. I've owned a few rentals, and then I ended up selling them because I was really didn't like dealing with the tenants and all that stuff. And then I don't know how to do creative financing. There's a lot of stuff. My list of things that I know how to do is very short compared to my list of things that I don't know how to do. But I do know how to do marketing. So that's the thing that has been the saving grace for me, because I'm very technical. So I there's not that many people in our niche that that can say they're a real estate investor. They know how to do wholesaling, and they know how to run Facebook ads, and they know how to run PPC, and they know how to run those things. Only a very handful of people. So that, to me, that has always helped me, right, in the business. And the wholesaling business is just a marketing business, not really, because when you say real estate investing, it's not really a real estate investing business. It's more of a marketing and sales business. But I would say, my love for real estate on a, it's not really that high. It's a vehicle for money, but if you said, hey, the only way that you can make money, but see, you have to understand. I say the only way. If you said to me, Cris, the only way you can make money is by doing real estate deals, I say, well, I do it temporarily, but as soon as I can figure a way out, I wouldn't want to do it, because it just doesn't fit my personality. The benefit that I had is I could do marketing and I can get other people involved to do the work. But so part of that is my personality. Some people are really great at sales and they love being on the phone, but that's not for me. So it's kind of it's a mixed bag with me with real estate.
I mean, I think the key part is that you found the piece. I mean, I say this because I'm with you. I'm the exact same way. I don't really like talking to motivated sellers or buyers or anything like that. And
right.
And I've been virtual investing for the last 8 years, right? But you have to find something within the process that you do love. You found, you know what I mean? Like I found that I could build great teams. Like that's my strength. I do that very well. You found that you're an exceptional marketer. And then you found other pieces that came in to fill your gaps.
Yeah. And to me, like, I think I'm very technical. So I'm very detail oriented. And so that works when it comes to dealing with a lot of the things that I deal with, such as, when we're initially dealing with direct mail and all the lists and everything else. And now we're dealing with, paid traffic and everything else. And then the other thing is I'm good at coming up with ideas. I mean, I would say I've had longevity, like, in any niche. If you're in the niche for a long period of time, you have to kind of reinvent yourself every couple of years. So if you think about it, like I've had to reinvent kind of my strategies and my positioning in the marketplace to stay relevant. And so I think I've done a good job of that. A friend of mine says, it's funny, you do a good job of that. The joke is that when a customer buys something and then they realize, oh, I bought this already, could you give me a refund? Only because the way you present it seems like something new, but it really is the same. Right.
I'd love to for you to tap into your digital bandit signs, from a 10,000 foot view. I know you have like education on this, you have groups on this, and it's kind of like a lead in.
You've been doing that for a while though. The digital
it was 2016. What happened is I attended, it was 2016. And we were mailing, I don't know if you guys know that I had owned a mailing company with Gary Boomershine, REIL Vault. Yeah. And then, so I was, at one point when we first started, we were using Podio, and we were the one that had the most Globy flows in Podio at one time coming into there. But then we built that business to, now this is gross, to a couple $1 million a year. But I didn't like the business. It was really low margins and a lot of humans that you had to manage. We had an overseas team of VAs, and it was just really complicated. And we were mailing the third notice postcards, because the third notice postcards happened because the old postcards that I was mailing, they weren't working. And so I was thinking, well, if we could only get the phone numbers for these people, that would be great. And back then there was no skip tracing. So then I thought, well, if I could bait them into calling the 800 number, I know I can, we have the phone number and we know the list we mail to, because every phone number has its unique identifier. So then we just call everybody who calls that number. That was the reason for the third notice. So it's kind of like skip tracing without skip tracing.
Right.
Although, let me tell you, that postcard worked great, but I've many investors, like if you look up that third notice and you look up like on news sites, you'll find like news stations always doing reports, because people would just get like frazzled. The old people would just get frazzled with those postcards. And sometimes they would reach out to me, but I would never identify myself as being the creator of that, because then I don't want that kind of that sort of recognition. So we were doing the third notice postcards, and then that stopped working. It wasn't working as well as it was. And I attended a mastermind with Lee Kearney. I was attending a mastermind with Matt Andrews. Lee Kearney was there, and he's a pretty knowledgeable guy, investor in our world. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm focusing on digital." And I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." And I knew that people were already doing PPC, but nobody was really attacking Facebook. So I had the idea of, okay, let me maybe see if I can figure out Facebook. And so I ended up buying like 2 or 3 courses, just general Facebook courses, because nobody was teaching Facebook. And then I did a search on every single person that on the real estate side that ever spoke about Facebook, just to get a lay of the land. And then I tried to experiment. And then what happened there was, at the time, Facebook allowed you to advertise by zip code. Things have changed now. But what I thought was, just thinking, I said, okay, well, what worked with the postcards? What worked with the postcards is we took the postcards back then and we personalized them. So they had the owner's name on the postcard. They had the property address. And that really was what created all those calls back when nobody else is doing it. And I had the idea of, I wonder if we could do that with Facebook. I said, well, if we're targeting by zip codes with direct mail, what if I target by zip code on Facebook? And what if I then tailor the ad and the images to be very specific to that zip code? And the minute I tried that, then all of a sudden it worked. And that was the first version of the course. And then what ended up happening is that Facebook eliminated targeting by zip code. And then now you can only target by really large area. And just by accident, one day we were running a campaign and we ended up like forgetting to put the targeting on the campaign. All of a sudden, like, we're getting leads. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I realized all the leads were all over the place. And I was like, oh, interesting. So maybe if we run ads in a wider area, then maybe it could be that we could just get a lot of lead flow. And it's just and so that's how the whole nationwide thing started, really by accident, because I missed that. And then all of a sudden I recognized that, oh, that's interesting. And so a lot of people obviously are doing nationwide now, but now our whole thing that we do is just Facebook ads, and we do PPC, but we run them over a large area. So we're getting leads from all over the place. And then that's how we're doing deals. And that's what we're helping students with. So it's more transition from virtual, to more of a nationwide. It's still virtual wholesaling, but it's more of a nationwide, spread out a couple of different, over several states.
I'm very fascinated by this, because one of the things I've always liked to learn from people who've been in the industry for so long, with all the experience you've had specifically in the marketing vein, is, say Cris Chico had a crystal ball, right? Where do you see marketing heading in terms of, an untapped potential opportunity in the next, say, 1, 3, 5 years? Like, where should people really be paying attention if they're trying to look forward rather than what's right in front of them?
Well, I mean, I look at 2 things, right? I think that it comes down to 2 things, because I thought about this already. There's emerging platforms, and then there increasing complexity of existing platforms that lends itself or changes it within the platform. So an emerging platform would be that, we're not using it now, but let's say that TikTok ads was new, and then now that's a new platform, and you figure out a way to use that. So that's a new platform. I think same thing with, Facebook. But Facebook, though, created opportunities with complexity of the platform, meaning that I was doing zip code targeting. All of a sudden that went away, and that kind of clears the field, because now people can't figure out what that next evolution is. And so then now that's when I transition to nationwide. I think that the thing that's happening now is with Google. So like, I'll give you an example. With Google, everybody has been doing PPC, but now Google's changing, right? Google is more based on less on search and more on all the data points that they have. So there's new type of campaigns that are being brought out and really pushed by Google, such as Performance Max and a lot of these and YouTube ads and a lot of other type of campaigns that then now the old guard now has to go and relearn and maybe the things that were working before. So I think, like, for me, I look at, like, for example, Google's an opportunity because there's not that many people that understand how to do Performance Max, how to effectively do YouTube ads. And so then now when those things come into the fold, now that creates a new opportunity because it resets everything. And then now some people are going to be left behind, but the people that figure it out are the ones that are going to be able to succeed with it.
Can you break down so I'm ignorant on that. Can you break down what Performance Max is?
Well, Performance Max. So Performance Max is a campaign where now you go in and into that campaign rather than just say, I want to target search or I want to target all these specific properties or the Google Content Network. Then what you're doing is you're putting all your assets into one campaign. And now you're allowing Facebook, and then you're giving Google now has these thing called custom audiences, whereas they'll say, hey, you'll say to Google, hey, I want people that have this particular type of behavior. Say someone that is searching, sell my house fast. But now instead of just targeting them on search, you then now want Google to target across all the different properties. So now that person that goes on search and doesn't fill out your web form, but now they go on YouTube because now they want to watch a YouTube video. Now you have the opportunity to present them an ad, or maybe they go on somebody's website and now they're going to see a banner ad. So it's looking at just the entire nature of Google's properties, and then now pushing that, looking for those people in those other places that are not just search. So that's what a Performance Max is, taking and unifying all those different assets, all those different placements into one campaign. But then you can also segregate them because you have discovery campaigns, you have search campaigns, you have YouTube. So all of those, now, what happens is now you take those and now you layer in other complexities such as tracking. And you have, so for you to build out an effective, if you're not going to hire an agency, if you're going to build out an effective YouTube campaign or a Google campaign, you need video assets. You need to be able to build a website that converts. You need to be able to know about tracking and putting all that together, right? So that you can track. So now you have a layer of complexity that comes in. And then now, to me, that resets everything, because now there's going to be a very large number of people that are just going to be either deer in the headlights or they're just not going to be able to do that. But then now the person who figures that out is the person that wins that game. So that's kind of like my thinking process around that.
Awesome.
In all the years that I've sold education and all levels, and what we've continued to notice in terms of a trend, and this is going to surprise you, is anything regarding lead generation did not convert. Anything regarding a quick flip, making a quick buck in real estate did, right? But I feel like in this industry, if you're looking to, one of the number one questions we get from newer investors or people interested is, where do I begin, right? How do I find houses? But I think a true skill set, and this is what you have constantly kind of harped on, is marketing. If you could become a master marketer and say you don't actually you end up realizing you don't really like the business of real estate, this skill set alone could get you business forever. There will always be real estate investors out there, and they're not all going to know how to become marketers. So I feel like if you're going to really focus on one specific skill set, it's become a really, really good marketer. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I did a video about this. I look at like a skill triangle, right? Meaning that in the old days, they would say that you want to avoid being the jack of all trades, and you want to be the master of one thing. You don't want to be the jack of all trades and the master of none. But I think that the opposite is true, in that it's better to be the jack of all trades and the master of none. And I think about like a skill triangle. Skill triangle meaning that there's three things, right? Number one, the first skill is the skill of understanding digital plumbing. By digital plumbing, meaning that understanding how the whole ecosystem works. By that, meaning that if you want to build a website and you want to connect it to an autoresponder, so it collects the email address of the customer, and then that whole flow and how it gets to your CRM and all that, like having a big picture understanding of all that. Number two is then the second skill would be digital ads, how to go out and get customers through online marketing. And then the last thing would be the conversion aspect of it. And the conversion could be broken up into two things. Number one could be belly to belly sales, which I still think, it benefits somebody to have some sort of knowledge base around that. And then the ability to put words on a page in order to be able to get somebody to take that next action. So like those three skill sets combined, I think, are the key. Because then if you have all those skill sets, you don't have to be the best at each of them. Because the analogy that I would use is that, in the house business, if you're the builder, if somebody's building a house for profit, who makes the most money? It's not the carpenter. It's not the electrician. It's not the plumber. It's the builder. But the builder isn't necessarily the best plumber or the best electrician. But he knows holistically all the components and how they all fit together. And he knows the hiring process in order to get those people together in order to build that house. So I think it's a similar concept would apply. If you can know all these pieces together, you don't have to be world class, but you have all that knowledge base there. Then now I think that puts you in a position where now you can excel in whatever the economy is and or whatever the opportunities are that may come from it.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
One thing that I know about you, and we're all in a mastermind together, and even at your level of success, and I know within the last year you made a relatively large investment into a program. This guy has a huge legal department, so I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but I'm curious, this huge coaching program that you participated in, a lot of people out here are getting touted, 25, 35, 50K, 75, 100K coaching programs. You actually invested in some of these, even at your level. To those who are kind of at that stage in their careers or just kind of on the fence to make that next leap, what advice do you have for them in terms of what to look out for, how to best optimize those opportunities?
I mean, I think I look at it as it's a game of probability, right? Because I think that if you join, I'm always a fan of getting somebody else to help you, right? The challenging part is understanding, and diagnosing. It's diagnosing your own issues to make sure that you're getting the right help, right? Meaning that you might hire a coach for A, but then maybe your problem wasn't A, your problem was B, and so you should have hired a coach for that. So that's one of the challenges. But I look at it more of a probability, meaning that if you hire 3 people, not all of them are going to work out. Some of them you might get a little nugget here or there, but it didn't really work out as well as you would have. But the second one you join is really the one that really gave you the most help. And so the program that we're talking about, we can say the name. There's nothing negative about the program. I went in, so I've invested in quite a bit of education. I invested in Grant Cardone. It's Grant Cardone and his business partner Cardone Ventures. So I invested in this program called the 10X 360. And at the time that I came into that program, I had an operations manager, which was key for us implementing that program. But then after being in that program, about a month later, I realized he wasn't the right man for the job. So I fired him. And so then that negated a lot of things from there. So that didn't work out as well as I would have wanted. Right. And that was a significant amount of money. Recently, I'm in 2 programs simultaneously. One is a YouTube coaching program where I'm trying to get help on doing better at YouTube. And then the second one is I have an NLP coach, neuro-linguistic programming coach. There's a book, if you know NLP, there's a guy, Steve Andreas, who wrote a book called The Self Transformations, which is this program is about more of identity, right? Like in order to affect change, you could do affirmations and you could do all this stuff. But in the end, if you don't really understand at the core level, right, what's your identity, how you see yourself, and how you see yourself, then and how do you change those things you see about yourself, then you're never really going to be able to affect change. To me right now, I'm more of, aside from the coaching that I'm doing with the YouTube, most of the stuff that I'm digging into is more mindset stuff, because I think that's where my stocks are right now. So that's the thing I'm focusing on right now.
I love the fact that you're constantly improving, though. I mean, you're never satisfied, and you're constantly trying to improve, all the time. You're investing in yourself.
Yeah, but it's a problem because this is something I've been working with my coach on, is that I ingest way too much information. I know too much about too many things. If you look at my phone, I have a 1 terabyte phone, my iPhone, and it has almost 500 gigabytes worth of seminars. I mean, I'm constantly just ingesting, and then now it almost becomes like a habit, an addiction. And then what happens is that then you start to develop this way of operating that you don't trust yourself, because you always feel that you always have to continually get more and more information in order to make a decision. Being in business for so many years, you kind of like, nothing great comes about from following other people's footsteps. At some point, you have to take what you learn and kind of engineer your own way. And I think I fell into the trap of ingesting too much information. The only thing that really I'm listening to is more mindset. And recently that's really, but it's a problem of mine. Information consumption is a problem of mine.
I mean, it's funny that you say it's a problem, because you're probably your hardest critic, but it also probably ties into your spongy idea concept, right? You're getting bits and pieces from everything, and able to innovate and come up with new stuff. Oops,
right.
Sorry.
And that's no, you're good. And that's why I love about what you're doing. Because I remember we talked about, we've known each other for quite some time, Cris. You're one of my favorite people. You're super fun. And I love the way you have your such positive outlook on things. And that's really the reason why I wanted to bring this up is we have people who join 30, 40, $50,000 coaching programs and then, have that victim mentality, but you've spent well into the six figures on these things. And FYI, I have a coaching program. I'll send you some information about it later. Okay.
Yes. I'm itching for one. Yeah. I was thinking to myself, man, I haven't swiped the card recently.
Yeah, I got you. Don't worry, I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I've seen the growth, and you have over 260 videos on YouTube, and you're one of those guys who have that diligence to constantly be putting content out there. Whether it's 100 people watching it, 2,000 people watching it, you've committed to the craft. Right. And I want people who are listening to this to really, really understand that Cris doesn't have to do these things. Right. And he's now investing in a coach to even get it better, because that's just a part of a personality trait. So those who are, really think about, I gave it a try and, it's not for me, really ask yourself, have you gone balls to the wall to fully commit to the process? Until you have, I don't think it's fair to yourself to say it didn't work for me. Is that safe to say?
Yes. I would say at the end of the day, the buck stops with you, right? Because every program works and every program doesn't work. It just depends on that individual. The thing I was thinking about as you saying that is just a clarity on kind of my focus right now, and maybe this would be instructive, is that it's more about less doing and more becoming, right? So like, for example, in the what most people have as the model of achievement is the do have be model, right? Meaning that, hey, if I do all these things, and I'll have all these other things, meaning I'll make all this money, and I'll finally feel like the person I've always wanted to be. And then I've come to realize that then that's a flawed model. That's why in Hollywood many times you have people that make a lot of money and then like they commit suicide, or they're very unhappy because they realize that, is this all there is? So then what I'm focused on now is more of becoming, meaning that who is the person that I want to become, so I can become an example for my kids, other people around me. And then if I embody that person now, and I take on the attributes of that person now and the discipline of that person now, then I'll be able to do everything I need to do, right, effortlessly, and I'll have everything I want, but it begins with the becoming. So the simple example I can give is that, one of the things that I feel like recently I've embraced more in a different way is fitness, meaning that if you look at fitness as a drudgery of, I got to work out, I got to fit my macros, I got to do all that, and you're doing it for just the facade of just losing weight, that's different than if I do it for what it represents for me, right? If I become a fit person, and I have, so I say by fit meaning representative, meaning that, for me, that I have, under 15% body fat, and I work out, 5 days a week, and people look at me and I'm like, wow, this guy's in pretty good shape. He takes care of himself. Well, what does that represent? That represents discipline. That represents commitment. It represents a lot of different layer of things. And then, so all of a sudden now the motivation for working out is different, because you're not doing it just because you want to look good, but you're doing it because of what it represents internally for you, of the person that you're going to become once you do all those things, right? And so for me, there's a quote that I saw recently. Somebody said this. It wasn't a quote, but somebody said this. It says, if your life was a movie, would you want to watch the movie?
Oh, yeah. Joe Rogan said that. Also,
he had a video similar to that. If you're yeah. So he would, and it's interesting, because then it's like the whole concept of what's the, of becoming a superhero of your own life. Right. Meaning that if your life was a movie and you were a superhero who had all these trials and tribulations, and in the end you made it, what would the end outcome of that be? and how would you be wanting to live your life in that way? And that's kind of like the things that I've been thinking about recently. And part of that is understanding like what is like the timeline, because if you start looking at your, I recently read a book from Benjamin Hardy. 10x is easier than 2x, and one of the things, it's a different concept than Grant Cardone. Everybody's familiar with Grant Cardone's 10x, which is doing more and more and more. And Benjamin Hardy's take is that 10x is actually doing less, because in order to go 10x, you have to remove stuff from your life. You have to remove people from your life. You have to remove the things that you do that are comfortable for you, but now you have to let those go. And you also have to look when you expand the goal and you look at that bigger goal automatically eliminates a lot of other things that may be in your life that you would have considered if your goal was smaller. But as your goal expands, then your focus has to be tighter on that. And so if I start to look at the long-term horizon of that, then I also have to look at, okay, where does real estate fit into the picture, right? Because like, do I still want to be doing the same thing I'm doing now? Do I still want to be teaching the same thing I'm doing now? So those are like the things that I've been kind of thinking about just as I get older, even though I don't look that old. It's the Mexican growth hormone that I apply every day diligently. Keeps me young, but I'm not a young guy.
I mean, that resonates with me so much, Cris, because I think I'm in the exact same spot that you are, right? And I love to identify, like those tipping point actions. Like obviously working out is one, because that's one action that has an effect on multiple different things in your life,
Yeah.
And so I've always been like that too. It's like, because I'm 53 and I have small kids. I'm like, who do I want to be 20 years from now? And am I doing the things? Because as an entrepreneur, you get so stuck into the grind or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just removing myself from all that. Right. I mean, every decision you make has a consequence. Obviously, it takes away from another decision. Say you have an advice for somebody that's 20 years back, yourself 20 years back. What would that be?
That's interesting. Probably I did a video on this on the channel about this, is that like if I think about how much money I've been good at making money. I've been good at allowing money to flow through my hands, but I've not been good at managing that money well. So, I would say thinking more long term, I would say when I first got started, you need different mentors, meaning that I focused on mentors that were going to help me figure out ways and hacks in order to get more revenue in the door. But I didn't get mentors that were going to teach me to become a better business person, that were going to teach me more about finances and about wealth building, etc. And so for me, I made a lot of money, but I also spent a lot of money. And so in hindsight, if I think about a lot of the stuff that went through my hands, I would have been better off now financially, from a wealth perspective, because I would have had more assets. I would have kept more properties. It would have been like, hey, you know what? Take some of the money off the table, do this. So I think that's the thing. And thinking, it's difficult because, it's difficult to think about things in the past, because when you think about things in the past and things that you didn't do optimally, then it's easy to get yourself down for that. And then you start to feel bad about yourself. Part of that process is understanding that the person who you are today is dependent on those experiences that you had in the past, right? And so I have to be mindful of that, not to allow that to be a blocker. But at the same time, I have to look further ahead and say, okay, is there any evidence to support that where you are, the decisions you're making today are different than the decisions you were making, 10 years ago? Because if not, then you're probably going to end up at the same spot. So I think it's like, I would say it's a combination of, you gotta have, it's like a three-legged stool. You can't just have help on the money-making side. You got to be able to have a well-rounded kind of personal board that's going to help you understand your blind spots and let you see that, hey, yeah, you're making a lot of money, but you should be doing this also as well. Not allowing, sometimes in life you have ups and downs. So you have, you have great times of success, and then you have also times where you screw up and things go the wrong direction, and then being able to recuperate quickly from those. Because I think in the past I spent too much time, like when the housing bust happened, and I ended up just really having a difficult time right around 2008 or 9 or 10. I realize now that it took me too long to get out of that negative state. And so had I gotten out sooner, but I tried. I think the issue with that is I tried to get out on my own, meaning instead of getting help, instead of seeking, I just try to figure out my own problems, and you're your own worst doctor. So I think that I look at it like 2009 to 2015, 16. I look at it as the lost years because I have no idea what the fuck happened. You know? And then there's some decisions that I'm trying to make now because at the end of the day, it's like I'm in the real estate niche, but I also kind of want to maybe teach something else. But part of, but there's also that fear based around like, okay, it's moving in a different direction. And so I'm not sure of that. So that's the other decisions that I'm trying to make as well.
I love that, man. And this is gonna be my last question. And this may hit hard. It may not. I'm very curious to your answer, which is you got 2 daughters,
Yeah.
At the end of this journey we call life, how would you like to be remembered by them?
Yeah, it's a good. I think about that as the, I think about the thing with Joe Rogan. At the end of the day, like, he if you ever listen to that audio, he says like, you want your kids to look back and you be like, my dad was a bad motherfucker. Like he did what he said he was going to do when he said he was going to do it, and he accomplished everything. And so then you're thinking about that, but you don't do it for them. You do it for yourself, because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, it's like you have to understand that like there's no legacy. I think because I have myself and my daughter. Past my daughter, like when she has kids, if I'm I'll be gone by then. But my grandkids, it starts to taper off, like them remembering you. So the impact is now with you and the people immediately around you. And not that you don't want to leave, build a huge legacy, but it's like you got to live. I feel like you have to be focused on now, and you have to be selfishly focused on like for you. Like I think of it, I got to become my best version. From that, everything else will take care of itself, and also not be like I work a lot of hours. I've worked a lot of hours in the past, and it's easy to say, "Oh man, I could have spent more time with my kids and everything else." But all that thinking just doesn't lead anywhere. You just got to start from today and doing it that way. And then also just like I'm more thinking about like what do I want to do. Like what do I really want to do? What do I want to be doing 10 years from now? Do I still want to be teaching real estate? Maybe. I don't know. It's like you're doing a thing that that safe spot, but maybe you want to be doing something else. I mentioned that up because part of the decision making I have to make is that if you think about it's interesting in the information marketing, right? Meaning that you run 2 businesses, because I have the real estate business and I have the information marketing business, which is teaching, doing what I do on a daily basis in order to expand your reach and everything else. And so I have more knowledge base in the information marketing business than I do in the real estate business. And then and so part of that is the thing I've been thinking about is whether or not I want to start teaching that and helping others with that as well. As part of, because if you think about it like that, I think everybody should be able to at some point teach others what they know. That's just a natural progression, right? Whatever it is you're doing, if you become successful with that, then the extension of that is helping others with the same. And that could be selling a course or consulting or some other way. And so to me, I look at that as a natural extension and evolution. And so for me, I'm wondering if I've been thinking about whether or not that's something that I want to teach and help others with.
I appreciate that, man. That now, I mean, you're impacting a bunch of people's lives right now, all your students and stuff like that.
I'm looking at a few people that I'm looking at what they're doing, and they're making a couple $1 million a month in a very simple business model. But underneath the hood, you come to realize that what they're doing is different than everybody else. And it's easy to go out there and create content that is just very transactional. You're giving tips about real estate, and you could just be this machine that's just pumping out real estate. But that can only do so much for you, because once they get the tips from you, after they gotten everything, then what else is there for them to follow me? The reason why they would continue to follow me is not because of real estate. It would be because of me, the person who I am. And they want to follow me regardless of whatever it is, a tactic, because they believe in my values. They believe in the journey that I'm in. They want to go along with the journey, and they see themselves in the same journey that I am. And that is building an attractive character. So one of the things that I did for me, I did this a couple of weeks ago, is I crafted my own attractive character document, and be more meticulous around like, okay, what do I stand for? What do I believe in? What are the things that I will say on social media? What are the things that I'm not going to say? Like all these things that you might do haphazardly, but you do that intentionally. Like I wrote down, literally, it's like 3 pages of all my stories, because I'm not good at telling my own stories. I was on the phone with somebody the other day. I told him, yeah, I live on welfare and food stamps. He's like, dude, I know you for 5 years. I didn't fucking know that. But, you know, it's like, you got to tell your stories because that's how people come to know you. And I mention all those things because I wrote a 47-page document with all these details. They're all factual. But now it's like me understanding, like one of those things is, what's my flex? Like I'm not out there like, you know, with a Lamborghini, but you know, a flex for me is, hey, I get a chance to go for 3 weeks to Europe with my family and have a great time.
Yeah.
And so the audience would be attracted to that. They would look at that and say, you know what? I like this guy, Chico. I wonder what he does. Oh, look, he teaches real estate. Oh, he also teaches people how to do X. And I'm interested because of the light. So it's like being more meticulous about all that, putting that document together. But as I was putting that document together, I said, you know what? I don't think that that's something that people are paying attention to. So I want to start implementing that for myself and being more methodical about that. But then as I do that, I'm like, hey, I think other people would benefit from this, because now rather than just putting a whole bunch of haphazard content around, then maybe you could be more deliberate about how you structure your content. So now you're putting together that attractive character that people will resonate with. And now they're just asking, you know, these people, there's a guy that I follow online. He's making like $2 million a month. The sales process is very easy. They're like, hey, man, I want to know what you have because I want to follow in your footsteps. What do you have? Like, then you're just like, I got this, I got that, I got that. Okay, I'll take that one. You know, that's what you want. But that you can only build that through like building that relationship with that other person, which is you revealing more of yourself, right?
Be more authentic.
Yeah, that was a long-winded answer. I'm really good with long-winded answers.
No. I mean, I love it, man, because I think, you know, I'm just putting things out right now, and I've always had fun with it. I've always been, because I've had like a little bit of a checkered past to a certain degree. And I've always battled like, how much do I really want to put out there, and how would it impact my kids, right? But then you sit there and you go, hey, you know, I could help somebody that was in my spot back then, or whatever it is, but I put my story out, right? So it's always like that weird balance on how much you should do and how much you shouldn't. So I love what you said about attractive character, you know what I mean? And really,
but the stories are always going to get people to you know, I remember even with and I'm going to mention his name because we all know him, but it's Grant Cardone. That, you know, the only time I kind of started liking Grant Cardone is when he started telling his stories about his drug addiction. And I actually know his at the time he was working with a coach, which I worked with for a short time, his Hank Norman. And he's the one that was pushing him to tell more and more of his stories. He's like, people, you just got to open up, because that's the only way that people are going to resonate with you, is them understanding your journey. Because when they see your journey, they see themselves in your journey. And that's how they connect with you. So the more layers of that you have, the more. So you just can't have one story. But if you have this, and to me, what was helpful is creating an inventory of stories. I literally went through all my years, thought through all the different trials and tribulations in the stories. And then it's just kind of remembering them. So you're not making something up. But as you're doing content and you're telling people this story or that story, they're going to, oh, yeah, I can relate to that. Oh, I can relate to this. And what you want is you want people that you want people to know you. I feel like they know you. Right. Like if I sit at a bar, if you watch enough of my videos, if I sit at a bar, you're going to offer me some tequila. Okay. That's what I want. You're like, I got you. I'm going to give you a tequila. I know what you like, Chico. That's what you want, you know, and that's how you build that relationship that then enables you to, you know, just, that's what you want. You want that relationship, because then once you build that, then you have brand, and then that's going to enable you to do a lot of other things too as well.
And if I could breathe on that a little bit, Chico, and, you know, I think you are accomplishing this at a certain level. You know, I've known you for years, and like the three words that first came to mind was palm trees, tequila, and lychee. You know what I mean? And if I could throw another one, there's the chirp. You know what I mean? And these are the things that I follow you for, because I know you're already a good, successful real estate marketer, investor, and things like that, right? But what I follow you for on your socials is those aspects of your life. So if I can help support you in understanding, like, I think you are creating that message. I am one of your subscribers. That's what I follow you for, right? And, you know, on that vein, you know, how do people get more information about Cris Chico? Like, where can they go? What are your socials? Give our people an opportunity to follow you on your journey, man.
Probably the best place would be, as I'm trying to restart that, and I'll tell you why I'm restarting it if you want to know, but the YouTube channel, Cris Chico, just look me up on YouTube. I would say that Google knows where to find me. So if you go to YouTube, search for my name, you'll see my channel, or also you can find me on Instagram at Cris Chico. just under my name. But YouTube is probably going to be the best place because that's where I'm going to be more consistent with long form content. And then what happened with YouTube is that I got tired of making wholesaling real estate videos. I'm like, if I ever have to do another fucking, how to find a cash buyer, then I'm going to shoot myself. And so I also wasn't fond of, I'll give you guys this advice here. I needed to figure out, like, and this applies to anything. Whenever you're trying to change something, the thing I learned is you got to find somebody to help you in as close as possible to the thing you're looking for. So for example, you guys know Mr. Beast. And I've entertained like getting coaching from a guy that has worked with Mr. Beast. But if Mr. Beast is out there fucking pumping, all these crazy videos, I'm not going to go out. And I talked to a guy that he's like, yeah, you got to go and do this and do that. I'm like, I don't want to do any of that. And so I had to figure out, okay, what is the content that I want to make and who is doing that sort of content at a high level that then I can learn from them because it very closely mimics. I also didn't want to do the volume game. Some of the guys out there, this are doing like a video a day. And I'm like, and I see them doing a video a day, but yet I see guys that are doing a video a week, a video every week and a half, and then they're popping and they're having great success. So I'm like, I like that concept better. I like producing a higher quality content, more thought-provoking, and doing my best with that content and producing a high quality video. And so then that's why, I kind of paused my YouTube because I didn't feel that I didn't feel like it was resonating with me. So then now I'm back on track with that. That's why I hired this coach and we're working through that. The last couple of videos, if you go to my channel, the last couple of videos that you've seen, they have different feel for them. The thumbnails are different, etc. And then, but that's the best channel right now for people to find me is on YouTube.
And I got to tell you guys, if you're listening, definitely give this man a follow because he's definitely on this exciting journey. I love what you're going to be working towards. And on that vein of Mr. Beast, I think he's spending like $4 million a video right now, just per video. Not everybody can do that, right? But I think it's just awesome to see that this transformation in you over the years, and it's definitely heading in a more entertaining direction. Not that you weren't entertaining before, but I'm looking forward to seeing your lifestyle content, man. It's going to be really, really, really good. Mike, anything you got up for our amazing guest today?
And no, I think, I could probably sit here and talk to him for another 45 minutes. I know we've already pumped out an hour, man.
Well, I enjoyed our chat as well.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I told you it was going to be an exciting one. We covered a lot of great stuff today. We'll have our notes. We'll have the links. Everything that you guys need will be here in the podcast. So thank you guys so much, Cris. It's been an absolute pleasure, man. I absolutely value our friendship and your insights.
Same here, buddy. Same here, guys.
Looking forward to seeing you in a few months, drinking some tequila with you, and to everyone that's listening, take care.
No cocaine. No cocaine?
No cocaine.
Okay.
Just the coffee, maybe. I don't know. Okay. We're going to be in Tampa, so we'll see what happens. No, I'm kidding. No, y'all take care, and thank you guys again for listening.
All right. Peace out. So that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you received value from this episode. If so, please share this podcast with your friends so we can help more people just like you. Also, hook up with us on Facebook, IG, and YouTube at REIL Talks. That's REIL Talks. So until next time, keep it cool and keep it real.